I would like to take the time to open up the meeting. I'm going to start off with roll call. My name is Rich Stork, and I'm the chairperson.
Dean Fendel, treasurer.
Matt Anderson, vice chair.
Al Powers, board member.
Sue Means, board member.
Tina Heidelberger, secretary.
All right, thank you for that. We'll move right into the approval of the minutes for the unapproved minutes for the month of November. Did everybody have a chance to take a look at them? And are there any issues you see with them? With that, I am going to look for a motion to approve the November minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor of the unapproved minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll take care of approving those minutes. Thank you. All right. We'll move right into the wastewater update. Terry isn't with us tonight. Terry has been a very busy guy this month, and I'll kind of touch base on some of the things that he's worked on. Other than his text he shared with us, where we're at on flows and so on and so forth. I'll read it almost verbatim, and Tina, you can kind of pick up some stuff. He was going to try to make it tonight, but he ran into some issues. So the high flow of the month was on 11/19, and that was basically 12,900 gallons for the day. The low was on 11/14, and that was 6,960 gallons, with a total for the month of 264,240. The daily average for the month basically rounded down to 8,808 gallons.
What was it?
Which part?
The average?
The average was 8808. Yep. Basically, you say in the high day we got a bunch of rain that day. So it's kind of another reminder, we keep pumping this out on the high days with rain. A lot of that may be I&I, which is, influent coming into our system, not necessarily from sewer systems, but possibly some pumps. We do know we have some leaks here and there. We've controlled that pretty well, but it's always on a high, wet, rainy day that we our averages go up. So we'll continue to use that information to, plan for additional PMs, monitoring our infrastructure with scoping out, trying to identify and reduce that unwanted I&I, but we still have to kick out the reminder, if you're running some pumps, it is illegal to dump them into the sewer system. We can identify those if we start scoping like we've done in the past. So we'll continue to watch that. We're really not too far out of whack, so I'm pretty comfortable with that. Terry has been working diligently with the MPCA and clearing up some of the discrepancies of our reporting over the past 2 years. There's been holes of the information. I think the MPCA is, kind of lost the information, because Terry knows he's been reporting, he has proof of that, but they're clearing up those issues right now. They're getting real close to that. He met with Lou from the MPCA twice this month, and they're really close to getting that settled. Once that's settled, they'll move forward with providing us with that working permit that we've been looking for, based on our permit from the past. So our flows and what we can take into our ponds will be the same, based on that past permit, with some additional testing and readings that we have to do and treat for phosphorus, like we talked about earlier, in the year that we'll have to treat for, and we budgeted for that. So we're getting ready for those treatments that will have to happen over the next couple of years. And that will be defined in that new permit, and hopefully we get that early in the year of 2025. pretty much, Terry's been very busy. I can't say that's all he's been doing, because it's been a lot of heavy lifting, and I appreciate him working with that and taking that task on as the operator. I'll move on. Is there any questions on any of that information? All right, thank you. Next, we're going to move into the chairman update. November. Wasn't too busy for me this month. I did deal with some issues, answered questions through emails regarding requests for hookups of the sewer sanitary system over in Rush Lake Estates. That's kind of a carryover from last month. I did, share some information back and forth, and I did talk to Jim Ertz on the phone briefly a couple days ago. Issues aren't totally resolved, but we're going to work towards a plan to see if we can shore that up and make sure we're both on the same page, Rush Lake Estates and Shorewood Park in the future, on possible hookups. So we'll continue to have that conversation on here later. It looks like we have some people here that want to discuss that a little bit. I also worked with Chris Ziegler, MAP. He's still continuing to work on the EPA grant process, keeping the portal current and taking on step by step to get that closed up. We are getting closer to that. I'll let Dean fill you guys in on that once we get to the expansion update information. I'll let Dean take on that and share that information to you. Also worked with Tina. There was some billing issues. A couple residents reached out through the portal, I believe, or emailed me and passed that information on to Tina, and she corrected that particular issue. So if you do have issues, reach out. The best way or the easiest way probably is over the website and submit your concern, and we can get to that. That's the best way for record keeping. Or you can shoot me an email and we'll try to keep record that way. But if we use the portal, it's a great paper trail and it's always there for us to fall back on. Continue to work with Terry and Lou from the MPCA on clearing up that issue with the permit. That was a lot of phone calls, sharing some information back and forth, and just helping Terry kind of get through that. That took a couple phone calls here and there, emails back and forth. Did talk to Lou from the MPCA. Very, very nice people, but they seem to be a little scattered there. And one of the things that's happening is we did have a representative set up to do our permit, and now that's been passed on to another individual now too. So there's a lot of turnover there, and every time there's true turnover, it's almost like we have to restart the ball a little bit. But we're getting closer. So the sooner we get that permit settled for the next 5 years, the easier it will be to do anything we're forecasting with the expansion or any other changes that we need to make with the system. We'll actually have a working permit which has been on hold since 2015, and the whole talk of the expansion. All right, so there was a couple of submissions on the website. One was it looked like a sales call. It had something to do with Google request. I kind of passed that off to you, Matthew. Did you see that submission and respond to that?
I have not yet, no.
Okay. And it really seemed like a sales thing, and they want to try to help or make our website better, but I think you can probably answer that question and put it to rest pretty fast.
Yeah.
So, but I'd really like to make sure that somebody submits something, we answer the question and clear up that question. So I'm going to trust you to take care of that, put that under rest. Met with Dean and Becky. We had a Zoom meeting this month, and it was really, that's our expansion group. Dean and Becky are kind of taking on the charge to keep that ball rolling. It was a very good meeting, lasted about 45 minutes, and we created some action items, and really just trying to regather what was done this year, where we're at with the EPA grant, what steps need to be finished to get that grant into our hands, and kind of get our budgets put together to set up a meeting to see what our next steps are to really get this thing jump started for the month of 2025. I think we're closer, and I guess we're going to, again, like we did last year, is try to set a goal. to at least try to get a shovel in the ground by late summer. There will still be some work that has to be done and cleared up before the, beyond the first quarter into the second quarter, to be able to get that shovel in the ground. So, we did kind of tentatively set up a meeting in January with that expansion group. Once we get some more information gathered, and Dean will again give you an update on where that is and what information we're going to try to gather, so we're more prepared for that meeting in January, and we can hopefully put a comprehensive plan together to get this thing rolling. I think we're closer than we've ever been, but again, we have to present it to the whole group. Not everybody's following the bouncy ball. So our goal is to have a meeting in early January to present all that information. So look for that information, and we'll get that information out through Dean and Becky. They have provided emails out to the residents and the expansion group with our goals here coming up. End of the month here, we've been trying to reach to Tim Corby and just touch base and see where things are going, and was kind of surprised to find out that Tim is retired. So, Tim Corby has been our engineer for years. He's kind of been the backbone of the development of the sanitary district. So I did reach out to HR Green to find out who our new engineer is going to be and what the next steps are. I did share a couple of emails back and forth, and just trying to ask the question of what's the status of our account, who's going to be taking over our account, and what are going to be the next steps to bring on this new engineer and get him brought up to speed. So there's going to be a little work there. I'm going to rely on that company since we've relied on them for so many years. They're a big engineering firm. I'm sure they're going to have some sort of a plan for us to get people caught up. In the meantime, we're going to be working with the team that Tim worked with, and that's one of their project engineers and another project coordinator, so they kind of know where Tim left off. But it's going to be a meeting that we're going to have to get to and just get everybody on the same page. So that's going to affect where we're going with that meeting coming in for the expansion, because we are going to rely on HR Green for some of the information there. So we'll have to, I'll continue to work with them in the next couple of days to see if we can set up a meeting, and I'll try to get that information out. I'll share emails. So please pay attention to those emails going back and forth, and I will copy you on all correspondences, and I'm saying the board, so you can kind of follow what's going on, and we have to set up some sort of a meeting. One of my action items was the review of the budget. We proposed a budget for the year 2025, and there was a shortfall. I wasn't quite happy with that, so I did make some adjustments to it as per our last meeting and meeting. I want to make sure that we present a balanced budget. So I did share with you where we want to make some adjustments. Hopefully you guys did take a look at it. I did reduce some of the higher budget items and brought them down to balance the budget and come in at a balanced budget. So if you guys are okay with this, I'll probably look for a motion to take this information on. Tina will update the numbers, and this will be our balanced budget for the year 2025. So I'll look for a motion to accept these adjustments, and then I'd like to get that approved. So I'm looking for a motion.
I do have one thing.
Yep.
For the engineering costs,
Yep.
the 20,400, so that's the $1,700 a month that we pay to.
Oh, that's Terry's.
That's Terry's.
All right, I'm glad. I didn't totally get that. So that's probably not a good place to pull that money off, because that's pretty solid.
Yep.
All right, so then I'm going to ask for some other suggestions. So basically, we're looking for 1,244 to take off.
Okay, I know that we have phosphorus treatment, but that's not per se, that we're gonna have to do it next year. So we could probably reduce that as a possibility.
And that's probably a good guess. You want to drop it all of that, 1,000 off that, bring that down to 4,000?
I would think that would be a good way to use that.
Is there any other? I already brought down mowing down, so I don't want to hit that one again. plowing scares me, but that's one spot that we could hit. I think we had a little bit of a buffer there.
Take 1,000 off that.
I think we probably could, so why don't we,
Plowing?
off plowing, yeah. Why don't we drop plowing down to 9,000? All right,
Do we know what we spent this year in mowing?
Yes, there's a budget that you should have gotten a handout for to date. I can look at it here. I didn't keep a copy for myself. Apologies.
actual expense was 61.5, we budgeted only 4.
But that's not including, that's just for the parks. The mowing up above, there's also, if you look in the operating costs, there's also a breakout for lawn services for the ponds, which was,
3,000.
well, we budgeted 3,500, we've spent 2,278.
Okay, so then we did reduce that this year already.
Yep,
We definitely won't want to drop 1,000 out of it.
Unless we just mow, unless we mow less, I don't know how that reducing $1,000 out of it is.
Well, we have to keep the pond, we cannot reduce our mowing in the pond.
Right.
We have to meet the requirements of the NPCA and how we keep that going. If we're gonna reduce on any mowing, it's gonna be done on the parks.
Right, and that's what I mean, unless we're gonna space it out even further.
Yeah.
So if that's what we're gonna do, then,
Well, you know, even if we take that $1,000 off, you can see that we did have some surplus money, and I would hope to think that we're gonna have surplus money next year. I just want to present a balanced budget, and we can make adjustments if we have to during the year. I just think, you know, it's easier to reduce the mowing in the parks, because people can pick that up on the backside, like they have in the past. If it's a month that they see they need it, it does tend to get done. So I'd like to reduce that down to 5,000. Are you okay with that, Matthew, or do you see another spot?
well, there were two suggestions, the phosphorus and the plowing, to reduce 1,000 in each of those.
Right, so that gets us down,
because we only need to drop 1,244.
right, we still need to drop 1,244.
So we've already done 1,000, so we just need 244 technically. So do we want to take the 244 off of the phosphorus treatment and just do like 4,750 kind of thing?
Sure.
Okay.
What's ironic is that I'm hearing from our neighbors that the board dropped the ball because we didn't pick up the leaves. So at first, you know, we get feedback that they don't want to spend, you know, people don't want to spend the money, but now we're not spending enough money.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, we're in a good spot where we probably shouldn't adjust it too much.
Well, we need to adjust it somewhere. If they want us to take care of the leaves next year, they can come to a meeting and ask us to take care of the leaves.
Well, that's what I said.
You know, and then we can, I mean, this was our first year we took it on, right?
Right.
So we know what the repercussions of us taking on that mowing was. If they want us to pick up the leaves, somebody can come ask us if we can make that motion to do that and spend that money, if we have it at the end of the year. They have plenty of opportunity to give us suggestions through the website and come to the meetings. We can't read their minds. So, I'm comfortable with those adjustments based on it. Do you want to give us a recap, Tina, where we're at then?
So we would take $1,000 from the plowing budget, bringing it down to 9,000, and we would take approximately 250 from the phosphorus treatment, bringing it down to 4,750.
Okay, then $1,000 off the mowing of the parks.
Yes, that you had already proposed, correct?
All right.
Yep.
All right, are we good with those adjustments?
And the pump station also you have listed on there, 1,000, bringing it down to 1,150.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, I'm looking for a motion for that balance.
I'll make the motion to make the adjustments to the budget for 2025.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries, thanks. All right, now we can jump right into the financial updates.
All right. So current checking account balance is $89,811.62 as of today. Our investment fund balance from our statement as of 10/31 was $219,345.73. Our investment cash value balance was $27,975.25. And I've also included an updated budget through the end of November for review. Our current bills this month, we have, it was 170, I will look here, 173.34, I had a typo in mine. For East Central Energy, which is an automatic debit, LJJ wastewater is $1,700. I have not received an invoice for that yet, but that is our monthly cost to that company. MTVL was $135, which is Minnesota Testing. It's our lab company that we use. So when Terry had done getting the ponds ready for the winter, they do testing, and so those were the water samples that were sent off to them. And then there is a bill from LJJ as well, a replacement of the battery module, and that was for the Sensiphone, correct?
Yep.
Rich?
Yep.
So Sensiphone is the monitoring device that, it's the phone system that they use to notify us if there's any issues with the sewer system. And then I put in a request to be reimbursed for the cost of becoming a notary, just because I did that because of this position. So, and the total cost for that in receipts was $178.63.
Any questions on the bills? All right, I'm looking for a motion to approve the bills.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to some of the old business. Let's talk a little bit more about the expansion and where we're at, Gene, and some of the stuff that we talked about this month, and kind of a recap of what I did discuss in my report.
Okay, Becky and Rich and I had a Zoom meeting, and we came up with a bunch of questions for Chris from Matt, who is doing our work for us at no cost through the state of Minnesota. This is saving a lot of the money that we had budgeted for HR Green to do this work. So that's a big savings there. I believe that we had about $5,485 this year we've spent on expansion, which is money that'll be reimbursed when we get our finances together for the expansion.
And that is quite a bit less than what we budgeted. I think we budgeted somewhere between 15 and 30, based on a rough order of magnitude from HR Green and Tim Corby. He did sign a contract for up to that amount, but we were able to deflect a lot of the work that we thought HR Green was going to have to do on that EPA paperwork, which is very, very daunting, believe me. And Chris Ziegler from MAP was able to do a lot of that work, and we're close to having that portal opened up for us, and hopefully find out where the funds are coming from and what we got to do to acquire them. There are quite a few steps involved. There's training involved. There's videos that have to be watched. There's still some steps that have to be completed. We'll have to let them know of how we're going to take care of the money, where the money's going to go. So these are some of the questions that have to be answered through the expansion and the expansion group once we understand what we have to do with that portal, but they'll pass that information in once we get the green light. So again, we're really close. Sorry.
No problem, that covers a lot of the stuff. I have, from our meeting, we did come up with a list of questions for Chris. I submitted those on Wednesday, of course, Thanksgiving weekend. I haven't heard back yet from Chris on that, but hopefully in the next week or so, we'll get some updates to give us an idea of what our time frame might be. I think that's it for now.
Are there any questions? More information to come, and more meetings to come here shortly. All right, we'll move on to the channel update. If anything has happened or nothing has happened since last month, what do you have for us?
All right, to recap, I met with the DNR. They denied the hydraulic siphoning project based on their observation of how that was conducted. In the meantime, the operator from Waterways met with Craig at the DNR and submitted a new proposal using bigger equipment based on how much they could siphon up. And we had a meeting, he came and presented to the constituents of the neighborhood. This is the operator. And we voted to accept the denial and continue with the project with the new equipment if it's proved to be what the DNR will approve. So it's not dead. It feels like it, but it's not.
Can I just ask so I'm
Yes.
this correctly? So the operator presented to the group an option to use larger equipment?
It would be, what's the word I'm thinking of, L?
That
Powerful?
more powerful.
Okay.
It would be a lot more volume leaving the lake.
Right now, they're using a 4-inch siphon hose, and they're talking about 10 to 12 inches. So, and being able to pump that 2 to 3 miles.
Yeah.
Further, right now, he's limited to 300.
And
So-
then they're also limited to the
Where we can
spawning of
put
that
it.
fish and the turtles and all that stuff.
So it was you, the group approved it, or to do that?
Yes,
Okay.
those present, and it represented more than 50% of the constituents,
And they,
of the residents.
the DNR denied the permit, so instead of going back and trying to revamp the permit, it's already denied. They're not even gonna listen to that. So we gotta resubmit another permit with this bigger expansion on the equipment.
Or, I talked to Craig yesterday, we can withdraw the request now as another option,
Oh.
instead of denying.
Oh, okay.
So we have to tread carefully with that because of our bid and our deposit, and we have to make sure that we handle this correctly so our deposit is safe and refundable. So that's something I'm going to be talking to Tony, who operates the Waterworks project, and discuss to him how he would proceed with that if he brings in new equipment. We don't want him to go out and spend $400,000 to $500,000 on a piece of equipment just to do our channel. That is something we need to discuss because that's not. Jim, do you have an old mattress spring or? So anyway, it's not dead yet, but it's not, if it is coming to be done, it wouldn't be till the fall of 2025. And I'll update next month.
Thanks for all your hard work on that.
It's been 2 years she's been working on it.
My hair was this color, your color, when I started. I jokingly say that, but it's true.
Nothing's easy. All right, thanks. Appreciate that. I see our next thing on the old business is our community garden updates. I see Jeff's not here right now. Were you gonna be working with him on that, or did anybody else touch base?
I talked to Jeff, he's out of town, left town today for business. But he has talked to the community garden people in Rush City and got some information from them. So I don't know what that information is, but just about the different options of trying to water and kind of plot out things that, the plotting areas. So it was a good meeting, I think he said.
So we'll look for future updates. If you want to pass on to them, I do have a map for them that kind of shows out that 2 acres and how it's plotted out that he could work with if he wanted to
Okay.
use that for designing, so I did bring that for him. All right, road signs. Al, where are we at with the road signs?
Going up on Friday,
Okay,
going up Friday.
all right, I know you probably could take care of the one for sure over off Michelle's property, but we have to get locates if we're gonna pound some new things in, so.
And this, on that one, I don't need to.
Right.
Existing, so.
So let's, let's get together, I'll create that account, we keep on saying we're gonna do that, but it's just a matter of me getting on the website. Sure. Maybe I'll come over and grab a beer and we'll create that website for Shorewood Park, so we always have that if we have to do any other locates in the future, because I'm sure there'll be other things that we gotta pound in the ground in the future, but then we have that portal, and we can, anybody can get into that account once I share that information. All right, any other questions on old business at this particular time? All right, I think we'll move on to some new business. All right, I think our new business is really old business. And I think we're gonna have, Jim, you have some questions for us as far as Rush Lake Estates and what our next steps and possible options are with, developing those properties there and the options that tie into the system.
Right. First of all, I'd like to say that we should send you guys down to St. Paul. Maybe you could help them straighten their budget out down there. I mean, they're fighting over, I don't know, what is it, $20 million or something like that. They got cut off. I said, and all they talk about is cutting the police. Says, what the hell, they need more police. It's not the only line item in their budget. They probably got 10,000 items. Find it someplace else.
Yeah.
But they like to talk about cutting police, because then the people say, but whatever. Like, you got to go through the lines and find it that you can cut,
Yep.
But anyway, so the Shorewood Park Sanitary Sewer District and sewer with Rush Lake Estates, as we all know, that Rush Lake Sewer Board approved that project to go in when it went in. Approved it, we got approved as a sewer lot development. Sewer means connecting to the sanitary sewer, city sewer, which you guys are sewer, sanitary sewer. So that's the way the project went in. Now, this has been going on for 4 years. 4 years, my notes go back over 4 years since we started on this, with you guys, with the board. And Rick, you were here, and Dean was here, I think, on the board at the time. So I've got memos, and I've got letters, and I've got all kinds of information talking about the system and temporary hookups, and if this happens and that doesn't happen, what happens? So Rush, what was it called before Rush?
It was Pearson's.
Peterson Resort.
Yeah.
Rushmore, I keep thinking Rushmore. It's on the other side of the lake. Peterson Resort had two hookups in there. So we were grandfathered in for 2 hookups. Now, 2 hookups mean we get 2 hookups. Doesn't mean we get 2 hookups that we're not assessed for. That doesn't mean that we're limited to 2 hookups, because we were approved for 5 hookups by the board. So 2 hookups we don't pay any assessments for whenever the assessments come due, right? Also, aside from not getting assessed for those 2, there was also comments in there about not having to pay SAC charges, but we can talk about that later. From the board. I also have that we paid $35,000 into the board for prepayment of our assessments. Not for anything that was due prior to that. It was for prepayment of future assessments, $35,000. So you're sitting there with $35,000 of our money that we borrowed you technically, or prepaid to you for 4 years, and we haven't charged you a dime for that. So, and that's just prepaying for assessments that are sooner or later going to come due, whether they're $10,000 a lot, or $30,000 a lot, or whatever it is. It's a prepayment for those assessments. So we're hoping that they're going to be reasonable. We hooked up lot number 1 on a temporary basis into Rush Lake Way. putting in a
High-pressure main.
high-pressure tank, a tank and a high-pressure line running into Rush Lake Way. So we set that up so we could hook one more lot into that if we needed. So that's sitting there ready to go if we need that. Now, I was really dismayed, what really dismayed me was when I get a copy of an email that Rick sent out saying, we're only allowing 2 hookups. We're only allowing 2 hookups. In fact, it says, just to be clear, the sewer district will allow only 2 hookups to the system temporarily or permanently from Rush Lake Estates until expansion is completed. Now, that's not true, because you approved this development 5 years ago, or 4.5 years ago, and the county went through Nestle Township, went through county zoning, went through the county, and you guys, to hook up all these lots to the sewer system. Now, if it has to be temporary, it has to be temporary. We're willing to work with that. But I don't like people sending out notes to realtors and other owners saying that this is it, because I don't think that's it. Now, we can argue about this if you want, or we can come to an agreement. But if we have to argue, it's probably going to be our attorneys arguing, and not necessarily me anymore. I've been very patient for 4 years working with you guys, and Dean knows that, as does the people that are ousted from the board know that. We've been very patient and working very diligently on this. And we didn't put $35,000 in it up front just because, we did it because they needed the money to pay HR Green and some, and some other bills that were due. So technically, we borrowed them the money, but we know we're going to owe it in the future, so we made it as a prepayment. I got a copy of the receipt for that. And I have copies of all kinds of things. So I just want you to know that we need to get this straightened out. You can't be telling people they can't hook into the system. I mean, you certainly can if you want, but if you cause a loss in value, that could very well be with Dan Graff, his lots, or Byers' lots, you may be responsible for that loss. So, I mean, and we're not looking for that. All we want to do is temporary, if it doesn't go, which has been 4 years, and you've had a 80% grant approved, how long ago, when was that approved?
Last year.
A year ago, or a year plus ago, that the project really should have been going and done by now. So, we just have to come to an end with putting out memos like that you're not hooking up.
Okay.
Now, and I got it right here, so here it is.
Okay, so we're talking about 2 different things, and I think what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to sit down. Jim, I think it's gonna have to be me and you, a couple other people. We're gonna have to go through that paperwork. I was on that board at that time, and based on the information and the meeting minutes that I could probably dig up, is we grandfathered 2 hookups based on what was hooked up there before.
You grandfathered in 2 hookups that we wouldn't be assessed for under when the new system goes in.
Okay.
Not that we were limited to 2 hookups. We had 2 hookups that we're not going to get assessed for.
Okay, well,
that are
this is stuff
grandfathered
that we could sit and argue about this, but I
Yeah.
think what's gonna have to happen is we're gonna have to sit down and put a plan together to see what we can do to accommodate the development of Rush Lake Estates.
Well, it's already developed.
I understand, okay, but it's not the Shorewood Park Sanitary District, it's not their responsibility to put a plan together of how you're gonna develop your particular sewer system, right? There is no infrastructure on that properties yet, right? It's always been your responsibility to get that infrastructure to our existing system temporarily. If, well, not temporarily, you guys decided to wait and be part of the expansion. That's the money that you guys invested. It was the same amount that every other lot invested towards that expansion.
No, we prepaid.
Just
our
hold on,
assessment.
okay?
We prepaid.
This
for
is the
our
way
assessment.
this is just the way that I understand it, all right? Everybody prepaid, all right? We're supposed to prepay up to $5,500 to pay for a facility plan and engineering plans for us to be able to go after the state or whoever to get grants. That has always been what that whole plan was in the first step of the expansion. Then it's how are we gonna pay for it? Everybody in that expansion wanted to wait and try to go for grants through the state or federal or whatever, okay? Now this is stuff we can all iron out and have all those conversations about because I have to look at your paperwork, we have to come to an agreement. But some of the information that you're giving to these residents is not necessarily true. I am ready.
What information am I giving to them
Okay,
that is
listen,
not true?
Gene, can I?
You tell me
Jim,
what I have not given any information to
so-
them that I have not
Okay.
given to you.
You're done, okay? We've passed a quorum regulation for this board that we speak and you speak, and we speak and you speak. Stop interrupting Rich. I know that you're upset. I get it. We've been a board, but you just interrupted me again. I'm gonna ask you to sit down, and then I'm gonna ask you to leave.
Jim,
We've been a board for 2 years. Where have you been in 2 years? Because this isn't new information.
I've been to the.
You've never been to, I've never seen you before.
Oh, that's not true.
I've been to every meeting for 2 years and I haven't seen you ever.
I have been sitting in here 2 or 3 times.
okay, let's stop a second, okay? Jim, we're not agreeing on, we understand that there's been some things promised you, okay? Not necessarily by this board, but the past board and the last chairman, okay? We know there's an expansion project in the works right now. We've been trying to get that process done and get that project done. It's not an easy process. It's not up for the board to pay for that, right? It's up to those people in that expansion to figure out how they're gonna pay for it. They're using us as a tool to get grants to provide them an option to hook up to an existing system. Now, you developed that property, and at the time you developed that property, you jumped on to that expansion, right? That was a discussion that you guys had with the previous board and the operator, that to help you develop that property, either way you would have had to develop that property for sewer, one way or the other, right? You had the ability to develop it with the expansion because it was cheaper for you, more cost effective than have you guys develop a whole new system and tie into our system. That's why you chose to go through that process, all right? Your process was just the same as everybody else. Everybody out of those 23 lots invested $5,500. You have 5 lots there. 5,500 times 5 is what? About 27.5, right? That was your investment towards the expansion. What the board came to you was, we didn't have enough money to pay off everybody throughout that expansion. The past operator asked you guys to help us get over that hump. You invested an additional $10,000. That's your $35,000. There's a delta there. But that $5,500, once you jumped onto that expansion, what you bought for that was a facility plan and an engineering plan for that expansion, all right? Nobody wants that expansion to go away. Dean doesn't want that expansion to go away. He's part of that. Becky doesn't want that to go away. And you guys don't want that to go away. We've been working very hard to get that thing done. You can hear the conversation. We have invested a lot of time and a lot of money for that expansion, all right? Whatever we decide to do temporarily for you guys to hook up, it has to be some sort of a plan. I cannot just allow 5 more homes dumped into our system without going through the MPCA. So we'll have to come up with an alternative plan because, yeah, it is 5 years. So we are going to need a plan B for Rush Lake Estates.
What would be 3 more? 3 more, you already had 2.
We can work out the details, okay? We'll have to figure that out. But what I'm telling you is, I'm not going to pay for that alternative plan. So we're going to have somebody do some calculations of what kind of flow is going to be added to our system. I'm not saying this is not totally out of the ground happening, but you guys are not giving exactly the true information out to the people you're selling the lots to, all right?
No, I don't know what you're
Okay,
talking
well,
about.
so we
You
have
need
a
to
difference
tell
of
me what
opinion
you're
there right
talking
now,
about.
okay? But I'm not gonna let somebody come in and tell us I can hook up to your system. Number one, I'll just talk about that manhole that everybody wants to jump into. We cannot punch 5 holes into that manhole. It is not designed for that. Was that talked about back then? Did anybody talk about how we were gonna tie the system in temporarily? No. All right? When you build
But
that.
that's not our fault.
Whose fault is it? It's always up to the developer to put a plan together. It's not us to develop your property.
No.
No, it's not. It never has been. Any kind of
I got the
development.
letters and the notes.
All right,
and,
we're gonna stop this conversation right now, all right? We're gonna get together, we'll try to put a plan together. If I have to bring a lawyer in, I'll bring a lawyer in, but we don't want to go there, right? We're gonna come to a conclusion of how we're gonna make this happen for you, all right? But I am not gonna let 5 people dump holes into our manhole, because it'll wreck it. It's not structurally made for that. And we're not gonna pay to get that replaced. So any kind of development is on the cost to develop and to come into our system. It's not on our backs to pay for that. It's on the developer.
When is the expansion going to happen?
We don't know. It has to be approved. It has to be approved by those group of people.
The
all right?
expansion group was given the 80% of the total budget. They don't have the extra 20%. They can move ahead whenever they want. They don't have the 20% to add to the 80%. It has nothing to do with us. We've actually participated to help you, to help whoever it is, the expansion group, make this happen. But it's the expansion group that ultimately has to move ahead, not our board.
They want us to come up with another $500,000 out of our pocket for that expansion. There's a shortfall of 50 or well, 500,000 based on last year's budget. Now that budget goes up every year, just costs go up every year. So that budget's gonna have to get rebooted. So whatever the total cost is gonna be, we have been allowed or allocated a grant for up to 80%, up to 1.9 million, okay? So that means if it costs 1.9 million, they're gonna give us 80% of that 1.9 million to complete the project. But we really don't even know what the true cost of that is too, so that's the hard thing that we have to balance for. All we're working with is an ROM, a rough order of magnitude, based on current construction, right? We don't know exactly how much it costs, because anytime we go to an engineer to do engineering, it's gonna cost more money. Nobody wants to spend the money to take that next step. So that group collectively has to get together and say, okay, we're gonna get a loan, all right? How are we gonna pay for that loan? Well, there's a lot of options, and Jim's aware of it, and he's given us some advice and try to work through that, but this all takes work, right? We're volunteers here, right? This is not our job. We have to rely on other entities which cost money to make this happen. And every time this happens, it costs money. We don't want to spend the money. We don't have it in our budget to spend the money, and those people don't have the money either. So it either has to be borrowed or given to us. Big step. We didn't have any kind of grant when this started 5 years ago. And it took 3 years of pushing this and some hard work from people who are volunteering to at least get that grant. We were approved that EPA grant, okay? Now it's taken a year just to get through the process of getting that grant. It takes a lot of paperwork. HR Green gave us an estimate of $15,000 to $30,000 to work through that paperwork. We found a nonprofit to take that on. We've continued to work that cost, and if you listen to us, we just told you that right now, it only costs us $5,000 to do that. So we've worked hard to keep the cost down for this expansion group. So anybody wants to tell me that we're not working hard to make this expansion go, I won't take that, because I've spent 5 years volunteering my time for an expansion to bring on to our existing system. We don't need that.
That hasn't happened.
Right, that hasn't happened, all right? This is work we're doing. We don't need it. Our system works. It's a plus for you to tie into the system, right?
Correct.
It takes work, but it's not. Rush Lake Estates, because that property was on our system with 2 hookups, figured, a certain amount of flow, we can allow those 2 hookups come into our, with no problem. I don't have to ask the MPCA to bring on those 2 additional homes, because they were always written into our existing permit. Now, what Jim is asking us to do is add 3 more properties, all right? I don't think the board and that past operator had the ability or the authority to say we can hook up 2 more without going through the proper procedures. And I'm not gonna do that without doing that, and that's gonna take a plan, and it might be a side plan outside of what's happening with the expansion. And if I was you guys, we would have another option, because there's no written rule saying, or there's nothing in stone saying this expansion is gonna happen next year. They're looking for 100% funding.
This is taking a long time for all of us.
Right.
And we're all sitting in there in limbo, waiting for this to happen. We're getting Chris from MAP to do this work for us. He's got to get this paperwork done before we even get our hands on any money. So his time frame is what it's going to be. And we're assuming now that it's going to be as Richard said, probably, we're hoping for late next summer. If we do that, we're also looking at applying again for bonding money from the state, which would, their decision would be in the end of May. So we're hoping for another chance at getting money to cover the 20% or part of it.
Now, one thing I want to correct is the Rush Lake Sanitary Sewer District owns the system, not that group of people, not our 24 or 23, however many it is. They're just individual people. That you guys control the process and you own the system. So it's like the city. If the city, and I ran the city for 10 years, I mean, if we're going to do an expansion project into a neighborhood, the neighborhood doesn't own the project, the neighborhood doesn't finance the project, the city does because we own the system. So you
Okay.
guys are the public entity.
I understand that, Jim, but we don't own the property that this is your development. I don't own that property.
No, but
Right?
you're going to.
So if you agree that it's up to you to develop your property, and you have to provide some sort of infrastructure to tie into our sewer
No, I
system.
agree with that. We
Okay.
did that and you guys.
Well, I haven't seen that plan.
No, but.
You didn't even have a plan when you hooked up Jeff's house. I got a call from a contractor that said, I am hooking up to your manhole, and I didn't know anything about it. I'm gonna dig a hole, I'm gonna punch a hole into your manhole with no future or nobody proved it, nothing came. Okay, that's how that went. That's exactly how it went, right? And I said, okay, based on the information that we had from the past board, you had 2 hookups. That's one hookup. One hookup's gone. There's a second hookup that can be hooked up into that manhole. I don't know who that's gonna be. That's up to you and your development. But what I'm gonna tell you is we have to come up with a collective plan on what you should have a plan B for those 5 properties. Because if this expansion doesn't happen, you're gonna have to put some sort of infrastructure in that property, which we'll approve, and you're gonna pay for that plan, and you're gonna hook up to our system. I'm not saying you can't hook up, but the current plan that we have in place it's not good enough.
But Rick, you didn't come to me to ask me for anything. If you would have done that, we would have done that.
Well-
Now, after you send a letter out to these people.
Well, that's because the
telling them-
information's not 100% true that you're giving.
I'm not giving anybody any information.
No, it's
I don't
coming
know
from
where
the
you're
realtor.
getting it
I don't know how you
from.
decided
We
to
are not
market.
giving incorrect information. We are
Okay.
giving the information that we know. So I don't understand why you keep saying that. This is the second time you've said it. We are not doing anything.
I'm sorry.
But that's very insulting to me.
Excuse me. I'm at a disadvantage. I don't even know who you are. Who are you?
I'm the daughter of the property owner who has 2 lots that they have a lot of money into,
Okay.
and we are trying to sell them.
Okay.
And we are getting told different things that me and Jim have worked very hard to make sure we give as accurate information as we can.
Okay, so
So when you're saying this, it's
well, that's because
very upsetting.
we're not on the same page, all right? And the information that's being marketed is not necessarily the truth. I don't make the decision, right? The MPCA regulates us. We need to understand what kind of flows are gonna be coming into our system. So a plan needs to be put together.
But this is the first we heard of that, Rick.
Okay, well.
For gosh sakes.
All right,
It's not
I'm
like-
learning the whole process myself.
Well, okay, but don't push it all onto us, or.
Well,
them,
it is on you.
because,
You guys, look, listen, Jim, you're the developer. We'll work with you to figure out how we can work with the MPCA to put this plan together. All right?
I can just tell you that it was approved, the
All right,
development would never been approved without you guys approving it to be first.
And what was the approval? Was it a letter from
No.
Denny? Was it a letter from the past operator and chairman saying that you have the approval to do that?
It's Denny, and it's who's ever on the board. I mean, it's,
I would.
the county approved the plat. You know, it went through Nestle Township, it went through.
Well,
the
so then there's
county.
some documentation for this, right?
But, but now, Rick, if we needed something different for this temporary hookups, you could have come to me and asked me. I would have got together and got it done.
Well,
We
we
didn't
have to
even
get.
get to this point.
Okay, so now we have to get it done,
I know, but.
okay?
I
That's
should
where
have
we're
had
at
it
right
done- I
now.
would have had it done a long time ago.
Well, we have to do it now. You guys were rolling the dice, basically on the expansion, right? You're
Well,
not
this
rolling the
is-
dice on the expansion if the expansion was gonna be approved, because we wouldn't have had to go through this process if the expansion would have happened 5 years ago when you
That's
signed up
true.
the deal,
That's
right?
a fact.
So
We would.
every year that this has been going on, we could have brought this up. But the process wasn't a problem because we allowed 2 hookups. Now you're beyond those two hookups.
Well, we're
Now
not
it's a
beyond.
problem. It's a problem. Because you always had two hookups available. It wasn't a problem. I'm not gonna hunt you down and say, I had no idea what was going on with those lots. That's not for me to pay attention to, right? So there's a problem on both sides. Don't point it at us
No, I'm
either.
not pointing, I'm not,
Okay,
I'm
so
just saying.
we have an issue that needs to be solved, okay? Let's figure out how we can finish it, because we're not gonna solve it here tonight.
No, I know.
And I don't want it to get heated. I understand your points, but you have to understand our point too.
I mean, when I get this letter, when I see this letter that went out, that wasn't that.
All I was
the one
doing-
that says.
All I was doing was answering the questions based on the information that I have, all right? And the marketing people are developing, or the marketing are putting out, basically they're telling people, and that's not the 100% correct information. And that was based on my information on what I do know.
But if you would've come to me, we could've got together and had this whole thing.
Well, now
I don't know.
we're at a point that we have to come together, all right? That's where we're at. Do you agree? Yes.
So, just, I guess I got one question. I think we had talked about this last time too, because you had said that there's only two that can pump into that manhole. Did you guys have any type of estimated cost of what a new manhole would be?
No, we'd have to go to see what engineering would engineer. There'd be cost for that. And then if we're gonna engineer some sort of a new structure to take on more manholes or more stuff, there'll be the cost to do that.
Okay.
Well, the key to this whole thing is no one spent a lot of money if the sewer project's gonna go.
That's exactly
That-
right.
So it's a moot point to say we need to spend a tremendous amount of money engineering something when if the expansion project's gonna.
I don't even know what the process would be to engineer that. It's probably a couple phone calls and working with, our operator. And it could probably be done
Right.
fairly cheap, Could it be done under 3,000? Could it be done under 5,000? I know there's a delta that Shorewood Park Sanitary District owes you. We've already discussed that,
Right.
right? We know that there's money, you've invested some money.
Yeah.
So is that money what we're gonna use to get to a point that we can come to agree on? Probably, we could probably figure that out. But yes, we're at a point where we gotta figure out exactly where we're at, right? I think, hopefully you can understand where we're at. We're regulated. I can't just start punching holes into it, because who's gonna come get in trouble? We're gonna get in trouble, right? If we go outside our permit, there's fines, right? You can-
Well, the thing about it is, I sat in a meeting, a year ago, a year and a half ago, or maybe it was 2 years, it could be longer ago now, because
Probably at least
my
2
hair is
years.
gonna be her color, Sue's color pretty soon. But, when Denny Sparky Wood was working on the project, it was a situation where they needed to expand the lagoon system too. Well, then we come to find out, and this was after I think Denny left, and you come in and said, well, we can hook up 24 houses to this system without any expansion to the lagoon system. So all of a sudden, we got capacity. So if we got capacity, now all of a sudden, there's some
The
other
cap-
regulation.
And again, let me explain how that capacity is there, and based on why we can hook up those 25 homes, including your lots, is because we spent the money to put a facility plan together based on flows. This was all calculated by an engineer, right? He based all that, did all the calculations, we presented that to the MPCA, that cost $30,000.
Right.
That was $30,000 of hard work that had to be presented to the MPCA. Then what they do is they look at our permit, and they look at that facility plan, and they said, yes, you can move forward with the expansion, right? Now, the pond and the lagoon had nothing to do with that. That was an extra part that he was trying to get put onto us, and that would have been part of the expansion. That would have been part of the whole sanitary
Right.
district, right? Had nothing to do with the expansion. That was something he was trying to slip in, and I know why he was trying to slip that in, but that's a whole nother process. Well, I'll tell you right out, I'll tell you why. Because he wants to develop some land too that he wanted to tie into the system. And he knew with our two ponds that we couldn't take on another 23 plus 32 other
Oh,
homes.
that could be.
Okay?
I mean, that could be, but
Well,
we were led to believe that.
Okay, so this is where this whole drama thing is going on, okay? So I think basically where we're at right now, because I'm gonna end this meeting because we're not getting anywhere, we need to get together and decide how you want to develop your property and tie into our system as a plan B. And then you gotta make a decision on, do you wanna do that right now, in the meantime? Because you know right now that, I can tell you right now, there's not gonna be a shovel in the ground, and that expansion won't be completed for at least another year at best. That's if they decide to move on with it. They might say, no, I want to kick the can down for another year, but that doesn't help you with your property. So what I'm telling you is we need to come up with a plan B because we're at that point, right? I do not want you to be able to develop your property, by no means. I never wanted that, and I think I've said that to you multiple times, even back when Jeff came in. But I do know that I cannot dump 5 more homes into our system without some sort of a plan and present that to the MPCA. Okay, 3 more. All right, so 3 more homes, it's even, and that might be as simple as writing a letter and putting a simple plan together and having the MPCA saying, okay, go for it. I don't know, I've never been down that road, right? So we have to figure that out. Can we make that happen in short term?
Well, hopefully.
Okay,
I hope so.
all right, well,
I mean, I'm sitting there ready, willing, and able. All I need to do is somebody to tell me. Shouldn't have had to come to this meeting and go through this to tell me that that's what we needed to do.
okay. I apologize that it came to this point. Let's do agree to move on and figure out a plan.
Yeah.
Is that the way we're
So
gonna
you guys
approach
come to
that?
St. Paul and help them with their budget.
I do not mind the debating, but I think you understand where we're at, and I understand where you're at, so let's, on the side here, and I'll keep everybody informed, we'll get a meeting, sit down, I'll get together. I think probably the first step, Jim, is we'll sit down with our current operator, me, you, and
Right.
him, and we'll sit down and try to put a plan together and figure out a way to reach out to the MPCA. And that's probably gonna be the first way to approach it.
See,
I do
then
not
I
want
might
to-
bring up, so let's do that, but then I'm gonna bring up about the I&I, the infiltration, groundwater infiltration. You know, in Rush City, and I said I run the city for 10 years, I started an I&I program in Rush City because we had the same problem
Yeah,
in the city with our lagoon system, is they were saying, we're gonna have to expand the lagoons, we're gonna have to do this and that. So we got the engineers to put monitors on all the lift stations, and voila, every time it rained, for the next week or so, the volume, not doubled, but it probably went up 50%. So where's all this water coming, what sewage coming from? Because it's in the sewer system. Well, it's coming from sump pumps.
yeah,
Many of it's sump pumps or lines,
cracked and.
crack lines. They used to use the clay tile lines and things like that, letting water in. So what we did in the city was we started a program where they did camera upon the sale of a property. You had to have your sewer line camera if it was within 5 years or so. I mean, if they were newer ones. So they started a program to do that. And it's still in effect to this day. So
Yeah,
when you
and
sell your
I
property in the city of Rush City, you have to have a sewer inspection. Then they make sure that your sump pump is being pumped someplace other than sanitary sewer, because that's very common for people to pump their sump pumps into the sanitary sewer.
And that's just, and that really has to do with knowledge of how it works. So people, I can't blame them, they just don't know how detrimental it is to it.
Right,
So it's
right.
really just schooling them, and we do have a process, and we've done that now with our new operator. He does scope out a certain amount of line for us every year, and we've identified at least 2 separate homes that that's happened to. And based on that information, we have been able to bring stuff down, but our infrastructure is old, it needs to be maintained, right?
Yeah, yeah, well, Rush City is old, the sewer system's older than I am, you know, and the line, so.
All right, I'm gonna move on. I think I'll reach out to you, Jim, we'll get together. We'll try to take care of this as soon as we can, because I do know you guys have people wanting to buy that properties, and I do not want to hold that up. But we do have to make sure we go about the process right. And there should be a plan B for Rush Lake Estates. I do agree with you that we were always gonna try to get you into our system, because it was originally into our system. But there's a proper way to do that, and I don't think the past operator board was following those right steps.
Well, and that could be, but then.
I understand.
I don't
We're
want
not-
to push it off on me either. I can only go by what I was
Okay.
told.
Let's see if we can come up with a comprehensive plan to take care of the issue.
I'm gonna have my hair turn the city color.
I have barrettes, you can have.
All right, I'm gonna look for a motion to close the meeting. First motion to close. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.